So, we're big into management. So we start there. So we look at the proxy and we look at their biography, and we just start immediately looking at what positions did the CEO have, before this. How did they rise? Like what are they, a product focused, CEO? If you think of Steve Jobs, he's the epitome of product focus. Are they a sales oriented CEO? Is most of their life in the corporate suite? So we try to determine, well, what is this business? If it's an operations oriented business, we're definitely going to want, somebody who's come up the ranks through operations. So if you look at Dr. Pepper Snapple, Larry Young, the current CEO, and we looked back to 1969 through articles, but initially, like you're saying, we looked at the proxy to kind of, we learned that he was running Pepsi, and he was COO, and he ran bottling plants, and it was all there in the biography. So it's like that gives us greater comfort to take the next step. But we were looking at Cisco, the food distributor. Food distributor operations are key, right? I mean, you're delivering food to restaurants every day and to other places. And we learned that the CEO used to be CFO, and prior to that was treasurer, and most of his life has been spent in a corporate suite. So for us, we would pass, on Cisco, because we said this is an operations-intensive business run by a CEO who's spent the majority of their time in the corporate suite, and probably be making decisions from the corporate suite, and probably be doing things, emphasizing things like mergers and acquisitions, rather than operational efficiency. So that's kind of the first place. We look at the compensation differences. We try to see, is this a team-based environment, or is this one with an autocratic CEO? So for example, if you look at the proxy statement of Whole Foods Market, Expeditors, Fastenal, some of these great compounding companies over 20 years, the salary differences amongst the top 5 executive officers are very similar. So it implies this is a team-based environment. If you look at, always pick on Bob Nardelli at Home Depot, he's making 100, 200 times what the next executive. It's a very autocratically run type business. So we're getting a feel for the management, simply by looking at the proxies. And we'll go to the website, look under the employees tab, to see if there's a culture at this business, as I mentioned earlier. We quickly read the shareholder letter, and then we always get now the 2008, 2009 conference call archives if they've been at this business, because that was a very difficult time. And it's very revealing, it's like we're reading through these to see what kind of person are we partnering with. Is it somebody who's very open about, what's going on and how they're going to deal with the situations, or is it somebody who we just don't understand what they're saying? They're just talking in corporate jargon. Or a positive side is, hey, we're trying not to fire anybody, and we're cutting our 401k plan, and that you get that information in these conference call archives. So that's the other place we look for, and so for us, management's very important. That's where we start, our process, and we can kind of quickly pass on investments that just don't meet our criteria. So I think, to help other investors, you have to have a sense of what your niche is. So an investment manager I admire a lot, his niche is in kind of busted retailers, microcap retailers, and he buys them for 1 to 2 times earnings. Sometimes I can't even believe you can buy companies for that, amount, but he is very disciplined in waiting for them, and that's his niche. And so he kind of sticks, in other words, when you have a strong criteria, what you're looking for. I used to call it like the perfect spouse theory, that, if the better your spouse, less looking around you're going to do, right? And a lot easier it's going to be to discard other, people. Like, if you're with a great person and all that, you're not going to like the bimbo blonde. But if you have the bimbo blonde next to on your shoulder, well, then a lot of girls are going to look appealing to you. So, that's kind of, it's really important to have this criteria and understand what your niche is in investing. And it takes time to develop. I'd say in the last 5 years we've been more management focused, because that's where we've been more successful, looking for compound machine type companies, and you have to have a great management team. So some people look at distressed opportunities and their maybe assets, understanding the value of the assets becomes a lot more important. So it's really tweaking that checklist to understanding in your area. But that's kind of how we take a quick pass on the company, using data that's available to anybody out there.